Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together. Good morning, everyone, and any of you out there who's ever raised a teenager knows that the experience of resolving conflicts among teenagers, often pretty deeply felt and highly emotional conflicts, is really the key to making a family in the midst of all that animosity. Not to make light of a very serious subject, but the countries that comprise the Western Balkans, which is our subject in this series, Lessons in History, those countries, those nations are in their teenage years, and there is a certain amount of fractious animosity that kind of goes along with that. So today we're going to talk about how you make a family out of all that, where some of those animosities come from, and we're going to be talking with Sabri Agimi, who is an international business expert and a TV presenter on that subject. We also have joining us a little later on Red O'Loughlin, who is a member of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So, Sabri, let's start with you. If you could join us here, I want to begin the. Good morning. I want to begin the conversation following up on an interview that I watched that you had about a week ago, I think, on the subject of Kosovo and Serbia and the relationship between those two very important nations in that region. Maybe you could talk about where those animosities come from, and I guess problems are beginning to bubble up to the surface now. Maybe you can frame that for us. Tell us what's going on.
Serbian Albanians, or Albanians that majority is in Kosovo and in region of Serbia. That story and crisis go back from 1912, when Ottoman Empire moved out. Russians with Serbians, because they are Slavs, they actually took advantage of that region. And then as soon as the Ottoman Empire moved out, although there was a joint war to free that region from Ottoman Empire with the rest of Europe, Serbia have taken advantage of that, claiming that as its part, and obviously start cleansing and start kind of neglecting Albanians on that region. That during that time they were stressed all the way near Belgrade. Not to go too long, but it was too long. And since then every time, as I explained to you the programs before, every time that Serbia have an opportunity, would kind of you take advantage and actually push the Albanians further and further down towards Kosovo. And majority is concentrated in Kosovo, what is today. So during Yugoslavian time, as I say, we were treated as a second-class citizen until the war of Yugoslavia, dismantling of Yugoslavia, and then Kosovo declared independence on 2008, February 17th February 2008, and now we acting as an independent country, obviously secured by NATO forces, which is known as K4. So that's where we stand now. 95% of Kosovo is an Albanians, ethnic origin, and it's another country that actually it's kind of been recognized by 120 nations around the world. not yet member of United Nations, but certainly European Union, Western world have invested quite loads on that population, and we are seeing a end of tunnel and bright future for our nation. When it comes to general speaking, I think we start kind of creating, or Kosovo start creating quite good kind of environment for investments for something that we can start talking about. And of course, we continue to have crisis with Serbia still, because Serbia did not change since Yugoslavian time, then Milosevic's time, and always kind of being quite aggressive and quite nationalist, and certainly dictatorship that we could easily say the government of Serbia, the present Serbia, it's similar age to Jesus Christ, I would say.
How close are we to out and out conflict in that area?
Say it again. Sorry.
How close are we to an actual shooting war in that area?
Well, we, between if it was left between Serbia and Kosovo, probably yesterday would have a war. But because uh, NATO is kind of responsible to keep the country secure still, and certainly we have our own army now, which is called the Security Force of Kosovo, well advanced and well prepared, and mainly being trained professionally by NATO standards. Um, I think we are not close anymore, and some of the issues that Serbian government and Serbian kind of influences try to push through minority of Serbs in Kosovo, in where it was mixed quite loads of group of criminals and terrorists that were invested on them. First of all, to put pressure on Serbs that are there, not to comply with Kosovo independence. And the second thing is to actually bully through those criminals, bully the Serbs, not to kind of not to integrate into what is Kosovo independence today. And furthermore, a few attacks that we have by them from time to time and day to day, which was the last one. It was in, I think it was in September 2023, is known as attack in Banska. That was a group of criminals that were trained by Serbian army and certainly friends with Vucic, which today the main guy who is responsible and lead that kind of attack, um, Radojcic is called. It's free move in Serbia, although the international community requests for him to be in prison and to be handed to Kosovo for justice to be done, basically.
It's interesting you'd put it that way. I mean, and when I originally framed the program, I talked about recalcitrant children, and sometimes they need a certain amount of discipline. I guess my question to you is: does the government of Serbia have the ability to discipline some of these kind of rogue criminal behaviors?
Yes, the government of Serbia have full power. I mean, have full power to actually change and do things if it was in right way. Um, I would say in last 10 years, the government of Serbia was kind of elected in such a way that they have gained so much power they could do any changes, including training the criminals, advising them of how to do it, teaching them within Serbia, and actually not getting put pressure by Western world enough and the international community to stop them attacking Kosovo and neighbors around, which was almost kind of went into the Bosnia, tried to create some kind of um, secession there with the Republika Srpska. So they have power, they have control over Serbia, big time the government. So if anything that they wanted to do it, they will have power. They have power to do it.
If they wanted to do it.
Correct. So they are directly responsible for positive things and negative things, whatever direction they go.
Okay. I think this is a point at which we can bring Red O'Loughlin in. Red, you were in the area. Maybe welcome to the program. It's good to see you, as
Thank you.
always. You were in that area back was it the late '90s that you were in?
I was in Bosnia Herzegovina 98, 99, and in and around the whole area of Macedonia and some other places.
And what was it you were experiencing there in terms of worrying about things like civil war breaking out?
Well, I was deputy director for reserve affairs for UCOM. I had oversight for a little over 5,000, almost 6,000 reservists in 89 countries in Europe and Africa as part of my job in Stuttgart, Germany, part of UCOM, European Command. And I was involved in the Kosovo bombing planning portion of that. I was down in Bosnia several times, Tuzla, Macedonia with Department of Defense people. Anyway, I was involved in a lot of different things, but the part that I remember, and again, this is from one of the briefs 20 some years ago. I was there 98, 99, so maybe not quite now, over 20 years ago. Oh, I guess that things add up over time. It seemed to me that, uh, and Sabri, correct me if I'm wrong, but just like Taiwan and China, China feels like Taiwan is a former part of China. Doesn't Serbia feel that Kosovo is a former part of Serbia and was broken away? And there's a kind of a distinction there that is similar to Taiwan and China today.
Well, if I understand correct, Taiwan have I think a majority of Taiwanese people are Chinese by nationality. I could be wrong here. When in Kosovo, 95% of population there are Albanians that have nothing to do with Serbian culture.
Okay.
Um, Serbia claimed Kosovo with a lie and fake
Okay.
kind of history, and Serbia, it's known to kind of lie everything they talk about it, and always they rewrite the history for them to actually create the situation for another cleansing, because that's how they see that the growth of the country it will be.
Yeah.
So those claims are based on fake. Serbia kind of had an issue with Kosovo since 1912. And, and then, not because the Kosovo belonged to them, whatever, but it was because of period of the war and supported by Russia when the Ottoman Empire was pushed away. And what they did is they basically claimed instead it was a joint venture of all the nations around that region to fight against the Ottoman Empire. But because Serbians were a bit more advanced due to the support they have from Russia, they start kind of claiming and cleansing and everything they could say about other populations. So I think most of those kind of claims are based on fake information. Within Yugoslavian period of time, we were um, it's called constitutive element of Federation of Yugoslavia. So we were directly connected to Yugoslavia, to the Federation of Yugoslavia. Although they claimed during the Second World War that Serbia wanted to support Kosovo for administration, while Kosovo is getting ready to become the Seventh Republic of Yugoslavia, or join Albania as they agree after war that time. So I think diplomatically, Serbians are a bit more advanced because, like I said, they took advantage of former Yugoslavia, okay, Yugoslavian kingdom, former Yugoslavia. So all the diplomacy and everything what went from Belgrade. So for parts of Yugoslavia, like Kosovo, for example, most of the time was presented by Serbia and Yugoslavian diplomat because we did not have enough voice to actually raise our own voice at that time. And as I say time and again, Albanians were treated like a second-class citizen. So we are constantly being bullied and being kind of denied an access to the education and to the major position in government. And I think until 1967, 68, then start slowly being given a bit more right to Albanians of Kosovo. and certainly few of our members of Kosovo managed to get direct connection to Yugoslavia. And 1974 constitution, then when Kosovo have that kind of right with new constitution that it was a constitutive element of Yugoslavia, that was the time that Kosovo started breathing a bit more easy, I would say, and start raising the voice that Kosovan Albanians are not what Serbians claim to be. So that was a period of time, like for 10 years, that gave us a little bit of time to actually gain some energy. And thereafter, we got Tito died, crisis started coming back, Serbian nationalism started kind of coming up. Milosevic came very late. I would say early for destruction of other republics of Yugoslavia, but very late when Kosovo already was on its knees because of pressure that was thrown from 1981 to 1986-7. When Milosevic then came, he kind of just speed up the process of, like they say, it's not enough claiming Kosovo as our country, but Kosovo without Albanians is going to be our country. So no matter what kind of agreement we could reach, when Albanians are there, it's not good for us. And that's more or less where we kind of had an issues with them until the war was over, obviously.
So when you're the rewriter of history, nobody remembers anything from 1912. All they remember is what is currently published today, and that's part of the problem.
I mean, it's interesting with the history, with the general population of the world. They see what's happened today, but not necessary to go back and to see the details of how did that happen. And I think Albania being as quite conservative during the Enver Hoxha's time, they could not kind of bring up the voice for Albanians very much. And Kosovo was under Yugoslavian rules, and certainly Serbia had lots to do with it as well. Could not kind of raise the voice, so the world community know a bit more. So on that, we need to invest quite loads. When I say we, Kosovo, need to invest a lot more into history, into archaeology, into everything that Kosovo have to offer, to bring us to the point that is understood that Albanians are ancestors of Illyrians. The Illyrians were in those regions was with Romans, Greeks at similar time. When Slavs, they came in 10th, 12th century, I think they came from Slavic countries into Balkans. So that's more or less. Yeah, we go a bit deeper in there, but it is important to see what is in today. Yeah.
Great. Sabri, if you can move a little bit to your left, you're out of frame on social media. There you go. That's it. Good looking guy. We need to take a break, but at the other side of the break, there are some terms that come up that a lot of people I think hear but don't really fully understand. When you talk about ethnic cleansing or when you escalate that to genocide, maybe when we come back after the break, you can explain what that means and talk about your history with that and the region's history with that. So thanks, everybody, for tuning into this episode. A great episode. And we'll be right back after this message.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of Lessons in History. And listen, I just was watching the break, and I got to tell you, Red's book is terrific. You really ought to consider Aging Sucks, but there is hope. And so, Red, thanks for joining us today. And Sabri, I want to pick up the conversation where we left off. Now, I know you are Albanian. That's your ethnicity, is that right?
From Kosovo, yes.
Yeah. So talk about that with respect to, and explain maybe for our viewers, ethnic cleansing and what that means, what that term actually means.
So ethnic cleansing, it's when there is a land claimed by one country, and they want to remove the indigenous people that used to live there, so they can have a country. They can have the country without the people. So that's more or less what's considered as a cleansing. Cleansing means that it was planned to do it, and whenever opportunity they did it.
Now, when people are frustrated, maybe when governments become frustrated with the pace of ethnic cleansing, when people don't cooperate with it, at what point does that become genocide?
On that aspect, I to be honest, I'm not expert on those kind of areas, as you know, but what genocide in Bosnia had happened, for example, that was known as genocide recently, it's that they were removed from whole town, the Bosnian Muslims, and they were divided by force, and they were divided, the young man, old man, and man in general, from the women and children, and they were killed and executed, and they were pushed. The rest was pushed out of the country, so they claim a whole that country. So the way they created that kind of massacre in cold blood during the time they have basically full control of it. That is the way that was analyzed. It came as to be considered as a genocide. Now, to do a genocide and to be able to prove that there was a genocide, there is two different things. So, for example, if you talk about earlier war against earlier kind of cleansing of Albanians by Serbs, I'm not sure how much it was supported by proper documents during the time that they did not have very much of media, and international community wasn't that much involved to get the evidence of it. And I'm not sure how that can be proven. For example, in 1912, 1936, 37, 1945 to 1940, 50 approximately, so it's 3 times approximately. And certainly the last war that actually was found all necessary documents and preparation that was set up of how to do cleansing of Kosovo by Albanians step by step. For what we haven't yet, although there was a couple of courts, international courts of justice and Serbian court, that was especially international court that was in Hague, special for war in Yugoslavia, that kind of took about 161 individuals to that court and proven so much of what had happened. I don't think for Kosovo have happened yet to take to the court, international court, Serbia itself, of the way they conducted the cleansing and killings, whether it qualifies as a genocide and also whether it's considered as an ethnic cleansing, which technically was. I'll say like somewhat about 70-80% of population were moved around, about 60 to 70% of the household being burned and diluted and stuff. And certainly in between times, there were different, for example, there was a police, was an army, and there was militias that were worked under the Armenian control, and all of them, they were directly controlled by Slobodan Milosevic, the guy who is known as Butcher of Balkans, that he had proven to have power and control every single meter of Serbia, Kosovo, certainly in a region, because he was that powerful. So to
Red,
summarize it all, it's for me, it's very difficult to say what was proven and not, but I know that there is a lot of evidence there that if we are able to structure it and to gain the evidence and to pay, like Jews have done a fantastic job because they invested on the documents and proven documents how bad the Europe, especially Germany, was against them. If we, as an Albanians, if we are able to actually focus and do a bit more work on it, I think we have quite lots of evidence to show that actually there was a genocide over Albanians.
I want to
by
make it.
Serbian government.
I kind of want to make it a little personal because it's an academic kind of a dry subject to talk strictly about the history of nations. But you grew up there. You grew up in Kosovo as an Albanian, isn't that right?
Correct, until 1992, 93.
What was that like growing up? What are your memories of that experience as a child?
So first of all, where I was born, there was a second generation of people that they were forced out of from what is known as Serbia, Niš, Prokuplje, part of Serbia, during I can't say by a number of years, but they were called by the names. The neighborhoods were called by the neighbors by names from where they were moved from. So, for example, Shilov, they were called the people in one town that came from inner Serbia. So they were kind of telling us. So it'd be like second generation. They were telling us how their parents being forced out and how many being killed and how they say there was so much of the pressure that the people who have 2 or 3 kids, they would take a kind of decision to kill one of them so they would not leave behind in militias to be massacred and killed because they were so vicious. Now, I was grown with that kind of stories, those kind of stories. And then during that time when my time, that was 1981, because I was born in 1971, at that period of time it was a bit relaxed. So we could go to school, university was set up, we have our police, we have our, the local defense organized that was by the system itself. So on that, it was a bit more relaxed. Although when it came to the jobs and opportunities, we were always second class citizens were treated as. But then 1981 and thereafter was unrest because of students want more rights. Then the Serbia kind of, at that time Tito died, the Serbia claimed that Kosovo and Albanians want to divide from Yugoslavia, which at that time saying to divide from Yugoslavia was quite a big issue. So what they did is they collected special forces from all over Yugoslavia. Within a night, they brought them into Kosovo, and thereafter, a special police from Yugoslavia tried to control every corner of Kosovo, and certainly they concentrated the army as well. And the Serbian media, they start kind of creating that strong nationalist behavior, which affected us. And I got to say, at that time, for example, you'd be neighbors with Serbs, friends, and whatnot. Okay? But then they start kind of claiming that somebody was abused by, one Serb was abused by Albanian. And then, although it wasn't proven most of the time that wasn't true, the media did not deny that anymore. So you would go like step by step in such a way that the people start, although they have neighbors they could communicate with, they stop communicating because they would think that something is gonna, some kind of media gonna write about it, and then it's going to be an issue. So they start kind of dividing. And when you start dividing the nation like that, to begin with, they understand, but thereafter they start hating each other. And of course, it was kind of dividing the nation gradually, Serbs and Albanians, to the point that they divided a school in 1987, 89, I think. The schools were divided. So Serbs will be in the morning, Albanians evening, or other ways. So they would not kind of be mixed. And then we have the poisoning of the students, Albanian students, that was later on proven to be a toxic, some kind of chemical that affect people in the brain. And there was like hundreds of thousands of Albanian students, from children and young men, were poisoned by it. So these kind of things, it was kind of gradually start dividing the people, and then they start using those kind of experiments, I'd say, to the point that actually at some point you just could not talk to the other people. And certainly, if I went to school, for example, from home to school, I was like 17-year-old, and the police would stop me, not because they were suspicious of something, but they just have nothing else to do, so they were bullying people around constantly. So they're kind of special force from Serbia. That was kind of, their duty was to create as much pressure as possible. Not to say that later on, then they kind of revoked our constitution, reduced our autonomy, forcing their program into our system, forcing our parents. So 90% of Albanians were moved out of jobs. When I say jobs, not just the official jobs, but any job. Even cleaner, you could not get job as.
Really?
So that was kind of completely, the nation got out of this. We're talking about 1.6, 1.7 million people. You would have completely moved out of work. And there was a time that people who flee, like myself, flee Kosovo because of the pressure. And I suppose to join military service personally, I could not join because it was kind of it was such a way that you could not serve the military service anymore. That would kind of spare, no matter how little money, to send back to the family so they can kind of survive from day to day, since they didn't have jobs. So that's more or less how it was to live at that period of time, as someone who was born 1971 to 1990, 2000, until the war kind of broke away.
It makes the story very personal, and I think that, really, when it ultimately comes down to it, there are issues of national policy which involve using acronyms and technical terms. But when it comes down to human beings and how humans feel about the way they're treated and the resentment that comes from that, I read real quick before we end the program, where we've got a few minutes left. You were part of the peacekeeping effort, I guess, in that area at the time. Maybe you can share a few experiences you had there.
Yes, I was part of S4 when I went down into Sarajevo in that area. And it's interesting, I think I mentioned last time, in the French sector, which Sarajevo was, they were fairly lax. Go almost anywhere you wanted. If you were in a group of people, you had to have one person sober all the time, carrying a gun. Everyone else could go out and drink and have a good time. But the guy with the gun was one who was responsible for keeping everybody in line and getting everyone back home. But if I went to the American sector, no drinking on base. You were not allowed off base unless you had at least 4 Humvees, the front and back with the 50 caliber on top. And it was just a different world. We'd go out and, like I say, in a small convoy to visit an area. And, the comment that Sabri made before we started the show about a house just being, burned or torn up with artillery. That was quite extensive in the outer areas. It's just, you sit there and you just wonder why. But Sarajevo, when I was there was parts of the town that was, really damaged. Bullet holes in most of the walls anywhere you went. But there's also a concerted effort. One of the things I thought was really interesting. I look over this, apartment complex or whatever, and there must have been maybe 2 or 3 windows that did not have a TV antenna, a little, conical uh, thing sticking out their window. So even with all the damage that was there, they were still taking their own initiative to get news or whatever they were trying to get because it wasn't available locally. But I think one of the things that Sabri mentioned just at the very end of last week's show, and we're almost here again today, and I thought it's probably a very, very pertinent thing, is the educational level. If you're looking at being able to change something, that to me, I wasn't involved in that part, but over the last week I've been thinking about it, and that to me made a lot of sense, makes a lot of sense, that if you're going to try to be a world player and part of the universe here on Earth, you need to have people who know how to do that. And I think with the technology today and the leaning toward AI and everything, people don't have to leave their country like they did 30, 40 years ago because everything was, there's no opportunities. I think that education and technology are going to be two ways that Kosovo becomes that leader in that area. That's what I think.
That's a good perspective. And Sabri, we have a few minutes left. What are the chances? What are the prospects for burying the hatchet in that part of the world and moving forward? And Red mentioned the importance of creating institutions that guarantee rights, especially minority rights. Do you feel as though progress is being made in that area? Is it one step forward and two steps back, or the other way around?
Well, Kosovo senses under supervision of NATO, and certainly the special forces and police are trained by highest standards, European standards, and European Western world standards. We have a very good kind of foundation for the stability on that kind of on our country, Kosovo. That did not happen in Serbia. Why do I pick up on Serbia? Of course, Macedonia have its own problems as well. Macedonia, Northern Macedonia, I'd say, because now they changed the name. They have invested slightly, but not as much as Kosovo have invested. So what there is a still Macedonian and Serbian nationalists who actually kind of constantly, instead of moving to improve Macedonia as a country, they kind of still are dealing with issues such as you should have right to speak in your language, you should not have the right to speak in your language, you have more rights than you should, then all these kind of nonsense things. Now, Bosnia-Herzegovina had a similar issues. It's kind of, you got three ethnicities, instead of working together, then still Serbia trying to influence 40% of Bosnia-Herzegovina, which are Serbs, to actually play a game with the region so they can kind of have some kind of say, whenever we want peace, we can make peace, or whenever we want trouble, we can create trouble. So kind of trying to get their muscles strong. Of course, there is interest of Russia to have Serbia as an influence there. Now, going back to Kosovo, about 2-3 weeks ago, they found in northern Mitrovica, they found 23 bodies that were hidden of Kosovo intellectuals that were killed in 1999. They were stolen, individually picked, killed, massacred. Just now they found the remains. And Serbia did not apologize for all that ethnic cleansing and killings it has done in cold blood, having control over every single segment of the killing machine. Not that they did not apologize, but they chasing the witnesses if they go to witness something that had happened, to kind of stop telling the people where they could find their own loved ones to bury and to give them lost. So we got like 1,400-500 still missing. One thing that it does not make sense to me today, it's European Union thought that should be subject of agreement should the Serbia discover the places where they are or not. They've been thrown in Danube. In Danube, it's the river in Serbia. They were taken the bodies by lorry. They were thrown in Danube. They were taken the bodies from Kosovo, the Albanians I'm talking about, children, women, and whatnot, and they were buried in Batajnica. So they know exactly where they are. but they don't want to actually show and to at least give them respect to those people who have the members of family missing. There is a lady, sorry, I got to take this one more minute. There is a lady who every single evening put their dinner on table for their 3 kids and her husband, that they were taken and killed in cold blood. They are killed. She knows they're killed, but she decided to constantly prepare dinner for them. And it's, to summarize, and I know that there's a lot to talk about more, but it is, we're dealing with this kind of mentality that this government have, and certainly I would say majority of Serbia being brainwashed by having nationalism for decades, that I'm not sure what is going to take them to become a bit open-minded and to start kind of being open of how society should live together, rather than trying to lie today about the history so they can claim tomorrow and create again the mentality of cleansing the day after.
That is the ultimate lesson in history, is that if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. And really, it's as simple as that. If you can't acknowledge the sins of the past, and you can't apologize for the sins of the past, and what you want is just for everybody to forget about it, then you're never going to be able to resolve these conflicts. Sabri, this conversation has been very illuminating for me, and I'm sure for our audience too. There are people out there who might want to talk with you more about that area and maybe use your expertise. What's the best way to reach you?
Like I always say, they can contact me by LinkedIn, they can contact me by Facebook, they can contact me by Instagram. I'm quite alert on media, and certainly I'm quite happy to even confront if someone have different views and have different life stories about Yugoslavia, Kosovo. Certainly, I think this kind of experience will it will help some other nation that are in similar situation of how to deal with it thereafter, all this crisis that they faced it. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Certainly you, Red, as well.
Well, it's a great opportunity for you, as you see it, but definitely a huge opportunity for us and our audience to learn from some of the experiences you've related. So thank you very much for that. And Red, what's the best way to reach you to talk about how aging sucks and how we stop it from doing that?
Probably one of the best ways, just go to my website, redolaughlin.com. O'Laughlin spelled OLAUGHLIN. So redolaughlin.com. red.o'laughlin@gmail.com is my preferred email address. Either one of those will get to me pretty easily. And my book is available on Amazon for those that need it.
It's perfect. From now on, whenever we're thinking about how to introduce you, I'm going to add the phrase "highly decorated."
Thank you.
Thank you, Red. Appreciate it. Nice having you aboard. And thanks, everybody, for joining us for today's episode of Lessons in History. My name is Al Cini. When I'm not working with Dr. Jacqueline and her team of experts, internationally renowned experts, I'm offering a program called Pro Fit for Teams, which is a team discovery and development experience. You can find out more at pro-fitforteams.com. You can phone me at 212-480-3730, or you can send me an email at al@pro-fit4, You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to connect. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you again next Monday for another episode of Lessons in History.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.